People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist.
Goldberg, who, by the way, I hope is still a friend, we can disagree with each other, should not be canceled or put off her show, as much as I totally disagree with her crazy statement. Free speech. She should be there. She shouldn't get a timeout.
Not every single thing has to be for everybody.
Right.
We can have platforms that have stuff on them that not everyone on that platform or who consumes stuff on that platform enjoys. And The View is a particularly weird place to do a cancellation.
It's called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but
It's
isn't it interesting that it's called, I mean, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
What do you get when Fox's king of sarcasm, Greg Gutfeld, joins forces with HBO's fearless contrarian, Bill Maher, and walks straight into the studio of The View without warning? You get a full-on showdown that had cameras rattling, hosts caught off guard, and social media completely losing its mind. There was no small talk, no fake smiles, and no carefully managed panel balance. Just two sharp voices stepping in with bold takes, quick wit, and a stack of cold hard points, showing zero patience for over-the-top outrage.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree?
Today, we're unpacking every sharp jab, every mic drop second, and the wild aftermath that turned daytime TV into pure chaos. So, buckle up. This one gets intense. The second Greg stepped onto the set, you could feel the room shift. It was like the audience leaned in at the same time. He didn't waste a single word. With that familiar half smirk that's fueled so many viral moments, he went straight at what he called the show's idea of balanced discussion. 5 hosts, but somehow all echoing the same tune.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
His first line landed like a hammer. He said, "The View claims it shows every side, but the only thing it really balances is the number of coffee mugs on the table." The room went quiet fast, like someone switched off the usual cheerful daytime chatter. Then he took aim at Joy Behar and her Halloween controversy involving Diana Ross. He joked that after talking about cultural awareness, she missed the next show, maybe, he said, to recharge her I'm woke battery. That drew a few tight laughs and some uneasy side eyes around the set. In less than a minute and a half, Greg had cracked the polished, rehearsed vibe wide open. He compared the whole thing to a Broadway production: dramatic lighting, exaggerated expressions, and not much real conversation underneath.
Joy Behar calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
But he wasn't finished. He leaned closer to the table, lowered his voice, and delivered another sharp line. He said, "If you tune in expecting serious debate, you might walk away wondering whether you accidentally switched over to a toddler's play date." That one cracked the panel's smiles just enough to show real surprise. Greg kept pushing, calling it ideological theater, a place where disagreement doesn't stand a chance. And that was just the warm-up. You could feel a tension building in the room. Then, just when it looked like he had complete control, another presence stepped into the picture. Picture Bill Maher walking in like he's casually late for brunch. No big introduction, no dramatic music. Just that familiar, confident grin that says he's ready to stir things up.
Joy Behar gets racism. After all, she's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast.
He's the kind of guy even fellow liberals sometimes avoid at parties, because he's loudly pro-free speech, openly pro-weed, and completely anti-BS. His entrance felt totally different. Where Greg came in sharp and fiery, Bill Maher stayed calm and measured. He opened with a casual line, saying he thought he was walking into some light daytime chatter, but instead found what looked like a full-on virtue-signaling fashion show. Every word had an edge. He argued that performative outrage has become the real pandemic of daytime television, spreading fast and replacing real conversation with applause lines.
Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, what I would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off.
Yes.
When she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic racism as a white lady.
Well, she had that one Halloween where she went as Diana Ross and she felt she was treated differently.
Cancel culture isn't destroying everything, he said, pausing just long enough to let the tension build. But it sure makes stepping off script feel like career suicide. With that, Bill Maher framed The View as a kind of moral courtroom, where one wrong word can send you straight to a social media trial. His shots were precise. No shouting, no drama. Just that dry, almost disappointed tone. He teased the panel for acting like louder means smarter. If volume were proof, he joked, this place would qualify for NASA. Then he went straight at the word woke. When a host defended it as simple awareness, he calmly replied that awareness is fine until it turns into a weapon against any real nuance. By the time he wrapped up, it felt less like a debate and more like a tough lecture from the strictest professor on campus, and the room knew he had made his point. With both men firing from different angles, the tension was sky high. Then came the next round. Greg circled back to Joy Behar, calling out what he described as on-air history rewrites. After that, he turned his focus to Sunny Hostin, challenging what he framed as the "I said it so that settles it" energy at the table.
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected. Yeah. So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and
migrate.
So why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great.
Goldberg wasn't spared either. Greg joked that she can switch from tough, skeptic to puzzled philosopher faster than the show's applause sign lights up. Then Bill Maher jumped back in, taking aim at the habit of turning every trending story into a full-blown personal emergency. He said they treat reading headlines like they're diffusing bombs, then wrap it all up in what feels like the saddest group therapy session on TV. He brushed off the dramatic gasps and even joked about who might be missing from the seating chart next time, hinting that it probably wouldn't be anyone who truly disagrees. Together, they chipped away at every familiar talking point. Greg called out what he saw as moral grandstanding dressed up as activism. Bill argued that the panel's wide-eyed curiosity sometimes feels more like a staged act than a real discussion. By the end, The View didn't feel like a talk show anymore. It felt like a spectacle. The hosts suddenly looked like they were standing under a spotlight they never expected. The studio tried to recover, but the mood had clearly shifted. You could almost sense it through the live broadcast. Coffee mugs tapping a little too hard on the desk, tension hanging in the air, and those tight smiles that quietly say, "Can this end already?" The rebuttals came, but they fizzled out fast, flashy on the surface with no real heat behind them.
Whoopi Goldberg, because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week
Yeah,
before.
sure.
So everybody was like, "Oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma." First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide. But
Meanwhile, Twitter went absolutely haywire. Clips of Greg rolling his eyes and Bill Maher raising a single brow were trending within minutes. Memes comparing The View to a Debate for Dummies theater spread like wildfire. Reaction channels exploded with breakdowns, some in shock, others cheering every sharp jab. Late-night hosts jumped in too, piecing together savage one-liners into highlight reels that racked up millions of views. Back in the studio, producers muted most of the panel's responses, which, let's be honest, were mostly classic deflections. We respect differing opinions. By the end of the day, the entire internet was buzzing over the meltdown. Viewers from all sides of the political spectrum found rare agreement. Even longtime fans of The View had to admit the roast was too precise to ignore. When your fiercest defenders can't land a single comeback, you know the panel is in trouble. But the real twist, it wasn't the chaos itself. It was he who delivered a final judgment. And here's the kicker. Greg and Bill Maher, rivals in almost every arena, agreed on the exact same brutal verdict.
I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay?
Bill Maher, who has been the standard bearer for liberalism and in many ways leftism until the woke went bananas in this last decade, but for decades, that's what this guy has represented in America. I want you to note the tone they all talk with him. I want you to look at Sonny Hostin's body language and the way they look at him and everything else. Just because he is a lefty who hasn't gone completely bananas, here they are.
The View isn't really a place for conversation. It's an echo chamber so loud it drowns out any real disagreement. Gutfeld called it ideological theater, while Bill Maher described it as a cult-style brunch with cameras. Both landed on the same point. One wrong move off script, and you're cast into digital exile. This isn't a talk show, it's a performance of outrage. This wasn't Parsons sparring, it was two insiders delivering a public intervention. When your toughest critics find themselves on the same side, you know you've crossed a line. They stood shoulder to shoulder in that studio. Fox meets liberal provocateur, hammering home a single truth. The View has forgotten how to have a real conversation. And if they won't take this lesson, who will? Every talk show could take notes from this meltdown.
Canada, apparently they're throwing tariffs on manatee meat and bovine semen, which means The View is very unhappy.
Oh.
So what should producers learn from all this? First, volume does not equal value. Loud doesn't mean right. And shock moments might grab attention, but they don't build trust, they slowly tear it down. When every segment feels like scripted outrage, viewers can sense it from a mile away. The real lesson, let honest disagreement happen. Invite guests who truly challenge the hosts. And don't cut them off the second they step outside the approved storyline. Real conversation is messy sometimes, but that's what makes it real. And this isn't just about The View. The whole industry could take note. When shows chase clicks instead of curiosity, they may win the moment, but they lose the audience in the long run.
Ah, you look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sonny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
People are tired of perfectly timed eye rolls and rehearsed reactions. They don't want choreographed chaos. They want real, messy, unscripted back and forth, not a round robin of recycled talking points. The surprise face-off between Bill Maher and Greg proved one big thing. Honesty connects louder than any applause sign ever could. At the end of the day, this wasn't just two comedians roasting a daytime panel. It felt more like a wake-up call for real dialogue in a time that's starving for nuance. The View may never look the same again. The hosts saw themselves reflected in that tough mirror, and it clearly hit a nerve. If you're over the staged outrage and ready for real conversation, share this video with someone who needs that reminder. When the clowns start making more sense than the ringmasters, it might be time to pull back the curtain. So hit that like button if you're here for unfiltered takes. Drop your strongest reaction in the comments. Who landed the sharpest blow, Greg or Bill? And don't forget to subscribe and tap a bell for more bold breakdowns. If you thought this one was intense, just wait for the next deep dive. Trust me, we're only getting started. I'll see you in the next video.